Good morning. We're calling the meeting to order. I think we're not. Okay. We're calling this meeting to order. Doesn't seem like it's working. I think we're going there. Good morning. We're calling this Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, July 30th, 2024 to order. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The board met in closed session this morning. Items we met on were item 1, conference of real property negotiators, direction was given. Item 2, conference of labor negotiators, nothing report. Item 3, conference of county council, existing litigation, direction was given. Item 4, conference with county council, anticipated litigation, claims were denied. Item 5 is conference of county council, initiation of litigation, direction was given. And the confidential minutes for July 9th, 2024 were approved. I think at this time, we'd probably like to be able to bring Pat Crew in because he's dealing with some health issues. So I think we need a motion. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve that Supervisor Crew be allowed to attend the meeting due to a health issue.
Second.
We have a motion by Axe and a second by Brown. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Brown,
Yes.
Chairman Oneto,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Forster,
Aye.
Supervisor Axe.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. With that, moving on down. If there's any members of the public who'd like to address the board on any item that's not on our regular agenda, now's your time to address the board. Pardon me. If so, please come forward to state your name for the record and sign in here if you would.
I've been here on previous occasions, and Jeff Brown's familiar with it, where my neighbors have a junkyard, and I was told by code enforcement, Michelle Gallagher, that I could make recommendations to the board at the board meeting. So what my recommendation would be is to possibly have somebody come in and clean up her yard for her and charge her for such. I know there's advertisements for 1-800-JUNK. So anyway, this is concerning my neighbor at the end of the yard, or end of my court, that completely fills up around her house junk and who knows what else. She just brought in another load this last weekend, and it just keeps on filling up in her yard. And what I am basically worried about is infestation of rodents attacking the whole neighborhood. I've had mice at my house before and so forth, got rid of them, but there could be a number of different animals as far as raccoons or skunks or what have you that could be in the area and collect in her. She's put stuff underneath her back deck. It's just packed full of stuff under there. She's got stuff all around the side of her house, all around the front of her house, and it's pretty disgusting. Also would devalue my property as, who would want to come and buy something next to a junkyard. So I'd like to ask, if there's any way that something could be done about it, and an appropriate amount of time. You know, if there's anything, I would appreciate it. The sooner the better.
Yeah, I wasn't on the committee, but I know the abatement board had a couple items.
We approved the abatement of this home, and also the sheriff is having Captain Cardozo deal with the vehicles, but they have to be 6 months and 1 day expired tags. That's what's required in that aspect. But they're looking at those vehicles that are sitting actually in the court. You know, a lot of this, part of this stuff is sitting in the physical access of the court, and it's blocking the, you know, fire department or anything else from doing a turnaround on the court itself. So, but the abatement, we did sign off on that. So that's still in the process under code enforcement.
Actually, the CHP came up there and had them move all their vehicles, so they no longer have their vehicles.
Okay.
And so that was something that I really appreciated. And
And then it'll be Lieutenant Thibodeau that did that. I did email them, Sheriff and Lieutenant, on when we have after the meeting.
I appreciate that, because that was nice to be able to pull my trailer out and get it around in the court. But that's, you know, that's only part of it.
I understand. It'll be coming back to the board here in the near future after she gives, you know, like we had to said at the meeting, you know, we have to now notify them 30 days, and then they have to get another 30 days response. So we're in the 60-day window right now.
Are you sending them certified letters so they can
Yes.
not say that they didn't get it or whatever?
Yes, everything we send on the code enforcement is always certified, and she takes a picture of it. It's always in the packet.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for showing up. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there any other members of the public like to comment on an issue? Or staff?
Morning, Board.
Morning.
Richard Vila, Public Works
Morning.
Director. I'm here to notify the board that the Sacramento chapter of the American Public Works Association has selected our Shenandoah Road Rehabilitation Project for a Project of the Year award. It won under a Transportation Rehabilitation category. The chapter's awards program recognizes public works projects that demonstrate excellent management, administration, design, sustainability, construction, and community relations, as well as the strong alliance among the managing agency, designer, contractor, and construction management team who work together to complete these projects. So this was a project that we completed last summer during the month of June. Just as a brief recap, there's about 3 3/4 miles of Shenandoah Road that was reconstructed during that time. So that's a pretty good achievement for us. The consulting engineer for the project, Ben Engineering, submitted this project for consideration, and it was selected. There's different criteria as far as agency size and project size, dollar amount and such, so it's kind of a tiered a process for selection of projects. So we'll be representing the county at the awards luncheon, which will be on Friday, August 9th in Sacramento. We'll be able to come home with a fancy plaque and such. So I think it's certainly a feather in the cap for the county. We embarked on that project. We did a full depth reconstruction on that roadway, which is a little different than what we've done in the past for road reconstruction. And it's not a brand new technology, but it's fairly recent in the road construction industry. And we went ahead and took that step and went with that approach, and it worked out real well for our project. So just wanted to provided the board with that information. And again, I think the county is being commended for, stepping out. And that project worked out really well. We had a good contractor on board that facilitated the actual construction of the project. And it was done on time and done within budget. So it was a good project all the way around.
Rich, what was the total cost on that project?
It was around between $2.5 and $2.6 million, which is a large project for us.
So a little less than $1 million a mile, or a little more, a little less, sorry.
A little less.
That's
Yeah,
not
less.
my thing.
No, Veer Camp Construction did the work, and I know I was out early on, and when they were starting work, and I was impressed. They were really moving. It was like, boy, they've done how much work and how long? They got with it.
Yeah, I mean, during the project, there were some traffic delays that were in that half-hour range or a little longer, but I think one of the important things with that is, they set up a one-way traffic through the construction site, and that kept construction traffic separate from the traveling public, and it also allowed the construction movement to occur by itself and not be in conflict with the traveling public. So even though there were some delays that some people felt were excessive, I think it worked out best to keep the project moving forward and it reduced the potential conflict between construction movement and movement of the traveling public.
Yeah, there was delays that were maybe a little bit long, but I think that allowed them to get the project done speedily. So you can have small delays and the project could drag on, a lot longer. As it was, a little bit of a delay, but it got done pretty fast.
Yeah, the project was done in a month's time, which I felt was very good. And I felt the contractor was very efficient in the way that they planned and phased the work on the project.
Well, that's good news to hear about getting that award, so how much you pay them?
Nothing, so.
Not kidding.
It was, again, the consultant did the application. I know they asked for some information, so I provided for him on the project. So I was glad to hear that we were successful with that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Any other members of the public? Board members?
Yeah, I have two things. The CSAC Ag Environment Natural Resource Committee met yesterday to make a recommendation to the CSAC Executive Committee on Proposition 4, what they call the climate bond. It has a plethora of things in it for everything but climate. There are some good things in it, but there are a lot of unneeded things. It's $4.1 billion bond. RCRC's already taken a position of no position on it. That's what I was advocating, and a number of other members of the committee. We were unsuccessful, so it'll go forward with about a 2-to-1. I think it was about 11-6 on the vote of the committee. So it'll go to the executive committee. I'm sure they'll recommend that it move forward with a position of support from CSAC. I don't think it matters a whole lot in the end. I mean, people are going to look at the measures on the ballot, and they're going to look at the amount of money. That's going to hurt us in our efforts to try and get a road tax passed. So I think overall, people are going to look at this and the other bond measures, and especially in the economic times we're in right now, and just say it's a lot of money. So that's one thing. I will say there are some good things in that climate bond, but I think the bad things outweigh the good. For instance, fairs, county fairs, agricultural association districts, they were trying to tout that as one of the areas for rural counties that we benefit. I think it's $40 million out of $4.1 billion to county fairs for preparation for fires and things like that. It's a drop in the bucket. Most of the money goes to large communities. LA area got a significant chunk of this 4.1 billion. And one more thing, I guess the governor sent a nastygram to our chair on implementation of SB 43, really disparaging counties for not moving forward and as quick as he is on fixing the homelessness issue. So CSAC is working on this. They were really discouraged by what the governor is saying and by how he did this. He did this on Friday, not allowing counties to respond, having the weekend to disparage counties. He's just a wonderful governor and really is not working with counties at all. He's out to do his best to try and fix the homelessness issue now that it's a black mark on his record. We want to fix it too, but you can't fix it tomorrow. As Graham Canal said, our executive director, it's going to take time to implement everything that the state has put into the legislation. So just wanted to bring that forward too, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm. Is that it?
That's it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's nice to hear he's casting us for homeless, but, you know, there's been, I don't know how many different committees and meetings and seminars and whatever on homeless, but I had a gentleman a while back who's probably been to half of them. I asked him his thoughts, and he thinks a lot of it starts off when kids are about this big, really small. He says he thinks that's long-term the way to solve it. I mean, you've always had homeless in society, you always will, but it's pretty rampant anymore. It's pretty obvious. I mean, I remember when I was probably 10 years old, went to Stockton. You could ride in back of vehicles back then, so we were in back of a pickup, looking around. And I remember looked up under an overpass. Oh my gosh, there's a homeless person under the overpass. There was one. It was a big deal. I don't know how many thousands there is now under the overpasses, but it's pretty obvious. It's a monster problem. It took us a long time to get there. I think it's going to take a long time to get out. A lot of it goes back to drugs. It's pretty obvious. I mean, they don't just have marijuana anymore. They got some pretty good drugs anymore that really wipe you out. It's up in Marysville, Yuba City here about a month ago. And there's people walking around, for lack of a better term, they look like zombies. I was talking to somebody that was up there, like, what the hell's going on in your area? He said, well, there's some drug called Trank. It's like a horse tranquilizer, and I think methamphetamines. People are mixing that, and he says it's wiping them out. They're done. So anyway, just some of my thoughts. I mean, how you solve it, I don't know, but I think it's a long-term goal to try to get there. Moving on, any more members of the public? Seeing none, looking for approval agenda.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Forrester, second by Axe. Roll call.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Chairman Oneto,
Aye.
Supervisor Forster,
Aye.
Supervisor Axe.
Aye.
Carries unanimous. Moving down to the consent agenda. I'd like to have a vote on separately item 9G. This is Sheriff's Office Mid-Management Association amendment to side letter, additional 5%. I'd like to have that pulled off and vote on separate. So I'll take consent agenda minus item 9G. For a motion?
Motion to approve
Second.
the consent agenda with 9G removed.
Approved.
We have a motion by Axe, second by Brown. Roll call.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Chairman Oneto,
Aye.
Supervisor Forster,
Aye.
Supervisor Axe.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Item 9G, we'll take it now, and the reason I asked how it pulled is I think it's The management there is paid pretty well. If you look at the increase, if that's added in, it'll be about 20% in 4 years. I think it's just a little bit too much. So looking for a motion on item 9G.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Riley? We did get an additional year extension on the contract, was that correct?
That's right, yes.
That's one factor, I think, in favor of it, and inflation has been high. I respect your opinion, though.
Yeah, we have a lot of other units and we have a lot of other bills to pay, and that's where I'm coming from. Looking for a motion?
Move approval of 9G on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Forrester, second by Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Or well, roll call.
Roll call.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Chairman Oneto,
Nay.
Supervisor Forster,
Aye.
Supervisor Axe.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Moving down, regular agenda, item 7A, this is an approachment permit application, Volcano Community Farmers Market. And Mr. Antone, Mr. Vila? Guess you get to go, you'll go first, huh?
I'll get it started since I wrote the thing for your packet here, the
Okay.
memo for it. So the department received this application for encroachment permit from the Amador Farmers Market for a Volcano Community Farmers Market. And the reason this is coming here is usually encroachment permits for special events we take care of at the staff level. But since this is a reoccurring event, it's being proposed to happen once a month for the rest of the year. And Chief Administrative Officer Eiley recommended this come to you for consideration. So that's why this is here, where you normally don't see encroachment permit applications. So there, what's being proposed is a farmer's market on one Sunday of the month, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And there'd be a closure of Main Street between National and Consolation, and half of Consolation between Charleston and Jerome. And so the actual closures that are being proposed and the way they'll be managed isn't a problem from a staff standpoint. The folks in Volcano, although the closures are a little different, they take care of this when they have their Cannonball Run and Independence Day Parade every July. And so they're familiar with being able to direct traffic through the community. A couple of things, well, there's 3 things for consideration, and we'll let the representative state their case for this. One is the application itself. 2, they're looking for a waiver of the encroachment permit fee. Typically, when at the staff level, when we look at encroachment permits, if the applicant's a nonprofit organization, we typically waive the fee, because usually the proceeds from their event are going towards a charity or something of that nature. In this case, just as for information, this applicant is not a nonprofit organization, so that's something for the board to consider. And also, we've had a practice with the Cannonball Run Car Show Independence Day Parade. I'm not sure where it started or whatever, but as Public Works, we've provided the traffic control materials for them, barricades, cones, and that sort of thing. Typically, with the Volcano Community Association, they come by the yard and they pick up the materials and bring them back once they're done. I'm not sure, again, when that started, and that's the only event we do that for. And this encroachment application's suggesting that the same is being done. In all honesty, I don't sound like the Grinch, but this is not really something I would want to promote further. In fact, I'd rather get out of what we're doing now.
Well, you're being a Grinch.
Well, I know it. Well, especially on a monthly basis. If it was once a year, maybe not, but it's not really something
No, I agree with you.
I'd want to promote, because pretty soon, there'll be another, well, they do it up there, why can't we do it here, and this, so that's just my recommendation, that, maybe if there's a number of events in that community, that they kind of pool the resources and spend a few $100s and buy this stuff.
Would you see it being a
on
problem
site.
doing it on a short-term basis so they can kind of see if it's going to fly or not?
Yeah, that's fine, but, I think it's time that we kind of, maybe have them as a community be more self-sufficient.
No, I agree, long-term, yeah.
So that's just something else that, I'd want to have the board provide direction for in this request. So if there's a representative here, I'll let them talk about what they've got proposed, and they can plead their case for you.
Morning.
Morning?
Morning.
Tom Henderson wasn't able to come today. He's the one that filed the application for the encroachment. And I was going to be here anyway, of course. As most of you know, I'm the president of the Farmers Market Association. The Volcano Market was kind of my brainchild. I went up in the spring and visited their seasonal market and realized that it had potential for the Amador Farmers Market to make it one of their main markets. We need a upcountry presence. We've tried it for many, many years in Pine Grove, and finally had to give that up. There just wasn't enough community support for that market, and I couldn't maintain the vendor base because of that. We tried this market. We've had 2 markets up there so far. The first one was really, really successful. A lot of people came out to support the market. They were appreciative of the market being there. And my concern was public safety. We had our vendors along Consolation and a few on Main Street. And a lot of people were walking in the street. A concern, obviously. No incidents. I talked to a couple of the Volcano vendors, and primarily Tom Henderson and Chris Henderson, and see if we could possibly request a closure of Main Street to make it a little safer during market hours. We weren't able to do that for the second market. Again, the second market was very, very well attended, and encouraged us to move forward with the idea of trying to make this happen so we could close Main Street and possibly close half of Consolation.
Question on that, Ron, is one concern I have is sometimes you might have somebody bringing a longer trailer in there, or maybe a big rig delivering something somewhere. And I think I was looking at, as far as
It's Jerome that's the big problem is, because it's just a one-lane road in the backcountry. I'm wondering, as you're beginning to get started with this, can we just block off one lane? What's your thoughts on that?
One lane on Main Street?
One lane Main Street and one lane on Consolation.
Well, our thought on Main Street was to close the entire strip.
Understand?
With the support of the vendors, of the of the merchants. There's been some concern about emergency vehicle egress access through there. It's not our intention to put vendors in the middle of the street, but on both sides of the street. So there still remains a pathway through the market should it be necessary in an emergency. So we would just pull away the barricades, and a fire truck could go down the middle of the street, no problem.
And I think that's the same question I have, like you have, a bigger rig needs to access that. Would that be available for them too? I mean,
It could be, yes. Yes, we are on a Sunday, so that's a rare occasion when a delivery would happen. However, if someone needed to get onto Main Street with a larger vehicle, it could happen.
Well, that's the reason I'm kind of asking, because of traffic control. If we can have everybody, coming from Pine Grove, go down National and Jerome, and then the traffic coming back off of Ramshorn Grade, go back down Constellation. So we're just having like a one-way running around there, because I do know during the Cannonball Run, that is a nightmare for those couple hours that we have to shut everything down. And, we get cars trapped back on Jerome, people having to back out of there. I'm just trying to keep a good constant, traffic, even though traffic is light, and I'll give you that. On a Sunday, traffic is very light, because I was out on the very first run of your thing, because my wife was selling things in Sizemore's business. So that's the reason, it's just keeping the traffic control running around there. Because I saw both traffic, people were walking in the middle of the street, and, traffic was running there too. So I'm just wondering if we can still keep the sales where they were, where cars would normally park, and then the people would walk in the lane, but traffic could go out in the outer lane is what I'm trying to run with here.
I think if that was the situation, we'd remain status quo and doing what we're doing right now. I think it would pose a larger safety hazard for pedestrians if we had merchants on both sides of the street.
Yeah, it's not big enough right now to have merchants on both sides.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm trying to, as we grow, to see where we grow into.
I mean, we would happily take any road closure, partial road closure that was available to us, just in the interest of safety.
Well, then, my only objection would be then you have traffic control sitting there at, National and Main Street, to allow just one-way traffic at one period of time with radio communication.
Okay,
That would be my suggestion at that time.
we could do that.
So your suggestion is what, to close what street?
Well, there's two options here, like I was saying. One is closing Main and Constellation one way while he's still growing, until you get all your merchants, enough to sit there and fill both sides of the street.
We're ready to do that. I mean, we've got a wait list, and we've got produce vendors who want to expand because it's the time of the year, it's harvest season.
Right.
So as soon as, we were hoping as soon as Main Street, we could have Main Street to ourselves with of course, the caveat of emergency access, we would have vendors on both sides of the street.
Okay.
And
Well,
that's,
then my suggestion would be to have radio communication at National and Main and Jerome and Constellation, so they can, just like we do any road construction, to allow traffic to roll through there one way until there's other, access. Because Jerome is just it's a terrible street.
well, there's not that much traffic. Do you need Constellation if you have Main Street closed?
No,
Then that's,
But
seems like it
the
would be
traffic's
best.
rolling it's making a left off of Constellation onto Main Street because they're going to Pine Grove. They're coming down Ramshorn Grade and then going into Pine Grove, going up.
But if you close Main and just detour them around Constellation, Jerome, and National, why not?
Right, and then that's the problem. Jerome is a one-lane road.
Well, there's also Plug. They could be coming down Ramshorn, turning on Plug and meandering through. So it's not, that's the parade route.
I mean, the good news is if you do something here, it's not forever. If it doesn't work, we can say, hey, we're going to modify it.
It's not every weekend, and
no, it's once a month.
Yeah.
And we've found that the once-a-month approach up there, the community is, of course, very supportive, but it becomes a little extra special that it's once a month. We, of course, have markets every week in Sutter Creek and in Ione. And we wanted to try this out up in Volcano. Once a month works for us as an organization because I can get the vendors I want in that market. It's hard for produce vendors, especially farmers, to do back-to-back markets, Saturday, Sunday. But in approaching them, when I was up there visiting the spring seasonal market up there, I talked to a few of the produce vendors, And they said, how would you feel about us coming up there and having a regular market? They said they couldn't do it every week, but once a month, we could make it work.
Because looking also Charleston is really, how are those people getting through? People coming out of Charleston down the hill.
How many?
How would they be getting through if they want to go that direction?
If they want to come down Charleston and go through Volcano,
Yeah.
they would turn left and go down Charleston, yeah.
Yeah, but you've got that blocked because you'll have vendors on there.
Well, on Main Street, yes.
You meant Constellation.
I'm sorry, Constellation.
Constellation.
But you
I
have,
thought you were blocking off Constellation too.
Well, that's what we're talking about right now. I said if we could get Main Street closed off completely, we could forego the Constellation.
Okay. Well, I was
Okay.
thinking, off of your sheet was Constellation and Maine.
I know,
Okay.
I know.
I'd be
But,
more
I mean, we want
comfortable
to be,
with just Maine.
we want to be workable about this. And if Main Street, and that's our primary objective, is Main Street.
Okay.
We don't intend to put both vendors on both sides of Constellation, just one side as we're doing now.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm so used to the cannonball,
but Ron, you're talking Main Street closure between Constellation and National, or
Correct.
if you only do Main Street going down further to St. George?
No?
No, just to the national.
You'll have enough room just with that area.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd be more comfortable closing either Constellation or Maine, one or the other, but both you're really kind of,
Understand. And we,
I think Main Street makes a lot of sense for a number of reasons. There's a bunch of businesses there which would benefit.
Yeah.
They're not going to be impacted. Moreover, it also receives quite a bit of shade in the hot months. It may not benefit you come December, but, that's the way it goes. Plus, I see this as an experiment. It can, maybe it works really well and people like it and the businesses and the townsfolks appreciate it. Maybe not, but, we can find that out. And as far as like other places saying, well, they do it there, it's a case-by-case basis. This is kind of a unique area. It really, I think, would bring people into a volcano and enjoy it. It's a really nice community, so.
I mean, me personally, as a vendor, I sell lavender and flowers at that market. I was stunned at the amount of people that were attending the market. I look up Constellation, and they just kept coming. I don't know where they're all coming from, but it was a constant stream, and the same on Main Street. So it was very encouraging.
no, yeah, no, I like the idea what you're proposing, but if maybe just Main Street, yeah, it seems a lot more workable.
Yeah, we're okay with that,
Just
Brian.
Main
I mean,
Street.
It would be fine. If we
Yeah,
want to amend our permit to just have Main Street closed, we're perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, I could,
And could you work with Volcano Community Association on having them buy some signage? So it doesn't have to be continually borrowed from the county?
I don't know if they have the resources to do that, but we have met with them. They are going to pull the beer and wine license for our next market and use that as a fundraiser for their organization. As for signage, Amador Farmers Market has provided the signage so far, roadsides for no parking and where parking is available, and also just information signs for people to know there's a farmer's market.
I mean, personally, I'd be okay with maybe letting you use the county signage for 6 months if Public Works Director's not adamantly opposed to it. But I think at some point, if you're going to keep going, I agree, then you really need to get your own signage.
What are you talking about, for them to come down, pick it up once a month and use it and return it?
Yeah.
We
For 6
could do
months.
that, or we could, if it's available, we could pick it up and leave it in Volcano and just use it, but that's a conversation to be had with Public Works.
I'm seeing.
He's shaking his head.
No.
He doesn't like that idea.
Okay, so we'll come every month and pick it up and bring it back.
I understand where you're coming from, but the county may need an emergency or something like that, and just,
It's called giving it to them, not, it's no longer our stuff.
yeah.
Okay?
How's the board feel about maybe for Richard, 6 months for during the summer? To allow farmers market to use the signage and barricades through the summer season. I don't have a
We've
problem.
got 6 more markets scheduled.
Yeah. Six more markets.
I think it's to December, right?
Yes,
Okay,
so, yeah.
so,
I'm okay with that personally.
Well, how about the encroachment permit fee waiver? It's been recommended not to waive it because farmer's market is not a nonprofit.
I think a lot of you are familiar with the Farmers Market Association. We're not in this for the money.
Exactly. I mean,
Every dime we bring in through our vendor fees, which are the lowest in the state, by the way, goes back into the market for advertising. We have a social media director, we have market managers,
I think it's a benefit to the vendors and to the community, so.
local vendors especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the community supports it a lot. I mean, people love it.
You are creating a precedent, though, by waiving a fee for something that's not a nonprofit.
Well, what have
So?
we done for the other farmers markets? Well, I guess they don't have an encroachment.
Right.
We do pay a use fee in Sutter Creek of about $600. We pay a use fee to a private property owner in Ione for about $600. It's just that $625 times 6 becomes a huge hurdle for us.
No, it's not by 6.
It's just one time.
My understanding, it was a monthly fee. Is that not correct?
Rich, why don't you come on?
Should be just an annual.
I wouldn't, I mean, this question hasn't come up, but it was my interpretation that it's a single one-time fee. And if it's an annual thing, then it'd be once a year. It wouldn't be on a monthly basis.
So the total for the 6 months would be $625?
Yeah.
That's a misunderstanding on my part, then.
That's usually something the supervisor from the area covers with their discretionary funds. So.
And I will cover it this year. So plan for next year, okay? I will cover it this year.
Thank you. Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm okay.
I think we're good. So
If it's just one, yeah, a single, that's okay.
full closure of Main Street, no partial closure of Consolation.
And get with me after the.
Supervisor Brown will cover the.
I'll cover that.
Sure.
Plus, give me a call,
Sure.
And we can see about the signs and stuff.
Terrific.
And even though it's a full closure, it will be available for emergency vehicles, or if somebody comes through with, I can't make the detours.
Yeah, we will accommodate, we will not block the middle of the street with vendors. We'll be on either side, so there will be access through Main Street should an emergency arise.
A larger vehicle could just one-way go through Jerome. That wouldn't be too much of a problem.
But we're accommodating, and it's pretty low-key, so if someone really needs to do that, they can
Okay.
do it.
We probably need a motion, I imagine, on this.
Mr. Chairman, we do have someone on Zoom that would like to speak.
Okay. Zoomer, you're up.
Go ahead, Catherine, when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. This is Catherine Evatt. I live north of Volcano, and I have been a patron of the Amador Farmers Market since they first began with their first market in Sutter Creek. I strongly support having the market in Volcano. It's hugely convenient for those of us who live up country. But I was the person who actually raised the issue about emergency ingress and egress, and I'm somewhat comforted by not having both Consolation and Main closed. But I would encourage the farmers market to work with Amador Fire Protection District and the Sheriff's Office to develop a plan for what to do in case there is a major emergency, and it's not just one vehicle that needs to get through. Because if there's a fire on my side of Volcano or any side of Volcano, engines are going to need to get to the fire, and people are going to need to leave. And it sounds good to say you can leave the middle of the street open, but I would really like to, see some sort of plan in place or put in place as this moves forward, so that the people in charge of the market know what to do if there is an emergency, not just hope that they can get all the people out of the middle of the street. I'm in favor of the market going forward. I think it's a great value to the community. And just one other comment about the traffic. While y'all may think traffic is light in Volcano, on the weekends in the spring and summer, there are big car clubs and motorcycle clubs that come through on the weekends. So you can have, 30 motorcycles at a time going through Volcano. So it can be an issue. It's not just, one or two cars going through in the middle of the day. So I just, would encourage everybody to do what you're doing now. Just keep an eye on public safety, but also encourage the farmers market to work directly with the Sheriff's Department and AFPD to come up with an emergency plan in case an emergency does arise. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I think if there's a major fire, you're not going to be having a farm.
We're going to close the market anyway. But it's a point well taken, Catherine, and we will develop a plan in writing and make sure that our market managers, as well as the vendors, know what the drill will be should there be an emergency.
Fair enough. Doesn't have to be lengthy, but wouldn't be a bad thing.
Okay. Can do.
Do we need a motion on this, Greg? I think we do, don't we?
Well, staff would normally issue this, so you can give direction to staff to go ahead and approve it with your direction, with your comments.
I think staff probably has direction then. You've heard our conversation, so I'd say go ahead and do it. And then use the signage for 6 more events.
So we'll,
Then after that, you have to have your own signage.
okay, so we'll coordinate so we're picking up barricades? Is that what we're talking about?
Yep.
Okay. And detour signs?
Yeah, there'll probably be, some barricades, detour signs, there may be some cones. I'm not sure I haven't personally seen what goes out.
Right. Well, if we're not closing Consolation,
That'll help.
that's a lot of cones. Right,
But,
so,
yeah, but you will need the detour to get people around the block.
yes.
And I think if we set this up right, you could have Jerome one way and then Plug the other way because National can handle that part of the traffic, but, it's those 2 side streets that, so maybe we set something up with those neighbors along in those areas that we can have traffic rolling either way. I think it would be a good thing.
Okay, well, we've got a few weeks before that market
Right.
happens, so we can coordinate with your department and figure out what's needed signage-wise and what makes the most sense traffic control-wise.
I think so.
Also, you might want to keep an eye on parking on Constellation, because people are going to want to park there, and, can emergency vehicles get through to,
Yeah, so far, I mean, the roadway's been open except for the pedestrians.
yeah, just, I don't know, parking might get out of control there. That's all.
We'll make sure people do not double park
Okay.
right, on that side of Constellation.
So were we going to just leave the permit fee?
Yeah, I'll take
as
care of
is?
it.
Okay,
Jennifer?
so just Main Street being closed off. They pay the fee or someone pays the fee, and then the county's gonna provide traffic control signs, right? And cones and all?
Temporarily.
Yeah.
Just, so this is kind of like a pilot study?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see how it works, make available what we have, and if you need something additional that we don't have,
And we'll do it once
we're
in
not
August.
buying it, you're
and
gonna
see
buy
how
it.
it goes, see what, what comments are, what problems may arise, and address them individually.
yeah, it might fly, Ron, or you might say, hey, there's too many problems and kill it. But it's a test case, it's
Yeah,
Try it
I
out.
mean, you know me, I think positively, so we'll build on that and go from there. We're really looking forward to having the winter markets, because we've never had Amador Farmers Market beyond the middle of October.
Are you going to have any other vendors other than farmers?
In the October,
ask
November,
personally.
December, yes, we're gonna invite craft vendors.
Okay.
We've strictly focused on food for the first few markets, and we'll do that again this month in August. But then we're going to open it up to craft vendors,
Okay.
of which we have many that already participate in our
I
markets.
have to inform my wife, that.
Good. Let her know yes.
He's trying to stay in good graces down
I
there.
am.
I think it's working.
Smart man. Well, I think you have direction, so
All right? Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your support.
And my wife loves your flowers, by the way.
I know. So Plymouth opens Thursday.
See you tomorrow night.
and I'll see you tomorrow night.
Upmore and Ione, right?
Yep, 3.
Next, we have item 7B. This is administrative agency and agreement amending a joint exercise of powers agreement between the County of Amador, the City of Amador City, the City of Jackson, and the City of Sutter Creek for the purpose of creating an agency for implementing a regional wastewater disposal plan. And who's speaking on this? Maybe nobody.
I'll bring it up. This is a request that came from Sutter Creek's attorney to me. I don't know if the ARSA member of the board has any more information they could provide.
Basically, it's dissolving our side.
Basically dissolving our ARSA and Sutter Creek's taking over.
Yeah.
I had a question for you on this. I don't know if it got to you yet or not, but my only concern in approving the agreement is, can Sutter Creek then differentiate between residential rates and commercial rates? Because the reason the county is part of ARSA is because we have a lot of commercial businesses that are serviced by ARSA.
Well, so Mr. Eiley did mention that question to me, and I did look a little bit yesterday afternoon. So setting those rates is kind of a complicated process. I think in looking at some of the cases that have been decided, they do allow like a differential rate structure. So you can have commercial be different than residential. But as part of the Prop 218, there is language, so it basically says one of the substantive requirements for these property-related fees is that the amount of the fee or charge imposed upon any parcel or person as an incident of property ownership must not exceed the proportional cost of the service attributed to the parcel. So there has to be that proportionality. So you couldn't say residential get no increase, commercial pays all of it, unless you could show that the only reason there was cost increases was because of commercial. But you can have commercial rates and residential rates. You're supposed to be able to articulate why those rates are the way they are. So that's about as close as I can answer your question. They can do it differently, but I don't think if they tried to make commercial pay more than their fair share, I think it would be subject to challenge.
That's one concern, possibly not enough to vote against this, but it is one concern board members need to be aware of. We're probably going to get some kickback if rates are increased substantially on the commercial businesses in the Martell area, the ones that are served by ARSA at the present time.
And those fees would be subject to Prop 218, so there is the notice and the majority protest, like with other rates, those property-related fee rates. So, you know, those commercial, well, the people who are subject to the fee could do a majority, could try to fight it that way as well.
I mean, on the other hand, ARSA is 82% of ARSA is Sutter Creek, so I see good reason for them to kind of control their own destiny on this. It's just they would be setting the rates for Amador City and the county businesses that benefit from ARSA at that time.
Any members of the public like to comment on this issue? I think a valid concern, Richard, but it's kind of Sutter Creek's baby.
It is. I just want you to know, you may be getting calls from people in the future if rate increases are substantial. And as we've seen from Water Agency and Sutter Creek lately, rate increases have been pretty steep.
Well, that may be, but I don't think that's really because we're dissolving ARSA and it's going to Sutter Creek. I think that's the cost of operating these kinds of facilities. And I think in the past, they haven't put the money into maintaining the infrastructure, and we don't always have the economy of scale. People don't seem to want to pay for what they need.
Well, as an ARSA board member, we've been asking for rate studies for quite some time, and every general manager doesn't want to do it. I expect that to be coming now.
Well, no members of the public. I'm looking for a motion as far as the amendment.
I'll make a motion to, I guess we're amending the JPA.
Yeah. And there's
So approve the resolution amending the JPA between the county, the city of Sutter Creek, Amador City, with respect to ARSA and the regional wastewater disposal plan.
Motion by Axe. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Forrester.
Under discussion, I will make comment, this makes more sense. Been very difficult as a board member who's not a member of the City of Sutter Creek City Council to have information transparently given to us. So Supervisor Axe and I both had to meet with a former ARSA manager, and we were somewhat distressed that we weren't getting the information to make good decisions. There's kind of a lack of transparency. When you have the general manager of ARSA is also the Sutter Creek manager, it doesn't seem to flow freely, the information.
Well, is there an alternative?
Well,
if they can run it all themselves, and so.
yeah, they're 82%, so.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew?
Aye.
Chairman Oneto?
Aye.
Supervisor Forster?
Aye.
Supervisor Axe?
Aye.
Carries unanimous. Moving down, item 7C, this is a presentation regarding programs, opportunities, and resources offered by Amador College Connect.
Good morning, Chair,
Morning.
Board.
Morning.
My name is Mia Huss. I'm the Outreach and Enrollment Technician for our new K-16 Pathways at Amador College Connect. And with me is Andrew Gardner. He is the K-16 Program Director for Amador College Connect. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to quickly explain to you what Amador College Connect does in case none of you are aware. And then I'm going to have Andrew speak with you about the K-16 grant and how we received it. And then I'll be speaking again about the new programs that we are offering at Amador College Connect. So Amador College Connect, if no one is familiar, is a local nonprofit located in Sutter Creek at 1 Prosperity Court. We provide free support services for college students of any age searching to achieve educational and career goals. We have scholarship programs with the Jackson Ranch RIA, the Mental Health Services Act. We also help students with peer mentorship, tutoring, exam proctoring, whatever college resource you need, we can provide it. Next slide, please. So now that you have a glimpse into what we do at Amador College Connect, I'm handing the floor over to Andrew to explain the grant and how we received it and where we're at on our grant timeline.
Thank you, Mia, and I do want to welcome Mia to the Amador College Connect staff. She's been here 2 weeks, and she's already knocking it out of the park. Just an amazing, amazing young woman, really doing a great job for us over there. The K-16 program is a state investment, started about 2 years ago in 2022, and a pretty large multi-million-dollar investment to improve access for higher education and workforce development, particularly in rural regions such as Amador County. And Columbia College put together a planning collaborative in 2023, and I was on that collaborative, and we went down and met with stakeholders across the 7-county region, kind of we call the Eastern Sierra region, even though we're on the West Slope. But it coincides with the SURF region, or the California Jobs First region, so all 7 counties are in that. During that process of the planning committee, we determined that education, healthcare, and computer science and engineering were industry areas in need in our rural communities. And so Columbia College went forward with the application and received $18.3 million in state funding to develop these K-16 programs in the rural areas to improve the workforce in those industry sectors. I got together with the Amador Community College Foundation Board, Karen Dickerson, John Tillman, everybody on that board, and said, I think we have a really great opportunity here to expand your programs and bring these Columbia College programs of work experience to the county. And so I went to work building industry partnerships, working with the Amador College Connect staff, and we wrote the grant, received the money, and so we are in the process, we're in the enrollment process now for 2 career pathway programs, one in education and one in computer science. Through that process, we have an MOU with the Volcano Communications Group, who has agreed to do the work experience portion of the computer science program. And then the resource connection with the Amador and Calaveras Child Care Councils to do the education piece, the work experience piece. So we're really excited. It's been, over the last 7 months, it's been a pretty incredible journey to develop these programs, receive the money, develop these programs, and start building our partnerships and working with our communities. So I'm gonna turn it back over to Mia. She's gonna tell you a little bit more specifically about those 2 programs.
Awesome. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so like Andrew was alluding to, we have these 2 new programs, one in early childhood education and the other focused on computer science and technology. Both of these fields are growing and especially in rural communities are in dire need of employees. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is just a quick glimpse at the flyers that I created within my first week of working at Amador College Connect. These are what we've been handing out to students, families, the school district, other companies around the county, social media. We're just blasting this information out, and this is what you may have seen already or what you have in your packets there. Next slide, please. The first program is the Early Childhood Education Program. This is for any student who wants to earn an assistant teaching permit in the state of California. So we're working with our partners, like Andrew said, Columbia College, the Resource Connection, and the Amador and Calaveras Child Care Councils. Next slide, please. So a little more details here. The program is 1 year and completely free to the student, so they'll earn that certificate within a year. Amador College Connect is working with Columbia College in Sonora to provide the courses needed for this permit and program. Students will complete 1 course in the fall. That's only 3 units, so that's about 9 hours of schoolwork, including the course itself. The course is Child Growth and Development, which will start on August 28th. The course is once a week, 3-hour class online that is flexible for students to either use the computers in our office or work from home. Students will then complete 1 course in the spring semester, that's also 3 units. This course is called Child, Family, and Community. While students are taking these courses, they will also be participating in on-the-job work experience. That experience will be 200 hours total, about 6 hours a week. So with the help of local partners, as Andrew mentioned, Amador Child Care Council, Calaveras Child Care Council, and the Resource Connection, Amador College Connect will have students get their on-the-job experience with local organizations. A great part about this program are the incentives afterwards, which is a $500 award from the Amador College Connect Foundation and other financial incentives from local communities like the Resource Connection. And one thing I love about this program personally is I've met so many students from different walks of life who are interested in early childhood education. I've met 60-year-old bus driver retirees who are looking to start their careers again, or simply a high school senior or single mother just looking to start their careers and further develop their pathways and career opportunities.
So where do you see the graduates of this program being employed?
So there is no guarantee employment with
I
the
understand that,
Resource
but
Connection, right?
Where would they plug in, do you think?
But luckily, if all things work out, they do a good job with the on-the-job work experience. I could imagine a lot of local agencies that they're either working for or just the school district or anything pick those employees up because it is a very dire need to have workers.
Okay.
Just with the school district in particular, we're in a real state of trying to find quality people to work in those fields. And so this was an opportunity for us to help develop that workforce and get them into the school district, working with our preschools. Those are really important child development areas to prepare them for when they get into the K-12 system.
What about the various, like after-school programs?
Correct. So like the extended learning program run by the Ed Services Department.
ACRA does a CAP program.
Yep,
which is
all those.
parallel to that. Yeah.
So we hope to really work with them and get those young people onboarded and into positions where they can support the school district.
All right, thank you. And so this is just kind of a glimpse at the ladder of permits and certificates you can get in the early childhood education program. So this is the first step in many certifications that you can achieve in order to work with early childhood education in that field. So this will allow people to, if they want to go back to school after receiving this permit, Columbia College has programs, they can come back to us and we can help connect with them to even earn higher permits, certifications, and such in this field. Next slide, please. So the next program is going to be the Computer Science and Technology program. Students will earn a Computer Network Specialist certification at the end of this program, and it is in collaboration with Columbia College and Volcano Communications Group. Next slide, please. All right, so this program is also free to students, and it also is a one-year pathway. These students will take 3 courses in the fall semester, so it's a little more rigorous than early childhood education pathways. Those courses are Intro to PC Hardware, and PC Operating Systems, which will all start in the fall. All these courses are online as well and total to 9 units, 3 units each course. In the spring semester, students will take 2 courses, Intro to Security and Windows Server Network. After completing those courses, students will be participating in hands-on training with Volcano Communications Group next summer, and that's a 3-week period. After completing this, students receive the certification, and very similarly to the program I just mentioned, students also receive a $500 reward. And the program for now is allotted for 10 students, but as the time goes on, we will expand if necessary. And the semester begins for Columbia College on August 26th, so students should contact us soon if they really want to join this program or the other program.
So it's online training, so at what times would the training occur?
The Volcano Communications training is hands-on in person.
But for the other,
Yeah, so they're going to be evening courses. There's going to be a computer lab, and we have one on site, so if students don't have access to a computer, they can come in, do the lab portion of the course, and then do the other coursework online asynchronously. So it's going to be very flexible for the students to come in to Amador College Connect, do the lab with a professor, either on Zoom or live, and then do the other coursework.
So part of this grant is funding a complete upgrade, technology upgrade for Amador College Connect, plus an additional 12 laptops that will all be networked, Bluetooth, wireless, with all up-to-date technologies and softwares.
but you need some kind of a hard schedule. The professor is teaching online, correct?
Yes.
So it will be
Yeah, it's not like,
pre-selected time.
yeah, it's not like, oh, come by whenever. There is a allotted time. And same with the early childhood education. It'll be a set time, and we'll have the syllabus for students and everything to make sure that they know. Yeah.
So is this going to be available to kids that are in high school?
Yeah, so
Before they
as we were
graduate.
kind of in development, working with Volcano, just due to the nature of their work, they were really stressing that students be 18 years of age. So we're targeting seniors, so they don't necessarily have to be 18 to begin, but they have to be 18 before they start the
The
work.
time they reach the end of the program. Okay, yeah, no,
Yeah, that's the whole idea of, and I'm a parent here in the county and I've worked for the school district, and there's just, not a lot of stepping stones between graduation and then what you do. And a lot of kids are, if they have the means, are going off to school, but there's a lot of kids that don't have a lot of opportunities locally due to transportation, financial burdens, whatever it is. So we wanted to make sure we can create opportunities here so students don't have to leave the county to go get it.
And with that, I just want to say thank you to the board for allowing us to present and share this information. And I also want to thank staff for being so helpful and getting the information on the agenda packet. It is not a difficult process, but for a first timer like me, getting something on the Board of Supervisors agenda packet, I really appreciate it. And to contact us, our information we're on the slides, and I do have my business card if anyone is interested in the program or wants to come by for a tour. We're open to questions, visits, literally anything, just to spread the word and get you guys knowing what we have going on in the county. Thank you.
Mia, how many people do we have enrolled in the education program right now?
Yeah, so since starting, which this is the start of my third week, I have got 9 students committed to the early childhood education pathway, and this week I have about 5 more students coming in to learn more information, so hopefully we'll have more by the end of this week. And like I said, the computer science pathway is 10 students, and we currently have 3. So that one's a little more difficult because it is a little more rigorous, so students don't have as much. They have 3 courses instead of 1, so they have to decide if that's something they want to do. But yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you very much, board.
Thank you.
thank you.
Move down to item 7D, this is landfill compliance projects, Class 3, Phase 1 dual extraction wells infrastructure upgrade. Mr. Gardner.
Good morning, Jeff
Morning.
Gardner, Director of Solid Waste. I realized after that presentation, I need an assistant like that who does all this great work. Well, as you know, we are in the middle finally of our project out there at the landfill. As of this week, we had a construction meeting this morning. They have gotten almost half of the unit completed. They anticipate having the vegetative layer on the top of the unit by the end of this week. As part of the project, there were multiple sort of sub things that had to occur. We had to clean out the pond before we could actually increase the size and expand it and reline it. There were other things that had to be done. In the background, we were always anticipating that we were going to potentially have to replace some lines, upgrade our wells, lift the wells depending on how much of the unit needed to be expanded in order to put the top on. So everything wasn't included in the construction bid. We knew that that was not going to happen. I came to you initially, we anticipated a budget of about 3.7 million. The board authorized $4.5 million in financing for this. We have the financing paid for. Previously, we created a revenue source, a revenue stream to pay the debt service on the financing. We easily have enough money to pay for $4.5 million in financing, probably even more if we need it. The state revolving fund still has not gotten me a final signed financing contract. So that means we're still waiting to bring that to the board. There's a closing resolution which we will ultimately estimate how much financing we're going to have to do.
How long have we been working on that financing, Jeff? Been in their hands for 6 months, easy?
We had our share of the package done and completed on October 1st of last year. So the only thing that had to be done after that, I worked with Greg and we worked with the attorney at the state revolving fund, and we agreed on all the language. We agreed on how it was going to be put together. They approved it, we approved it, and it's been, well, 10 months now. All they had to do was get the thing signed. All the people at the state, I believe, are coming back and working 2 or 3 days a week in the office. I'm almost fairly certain the water board people are the last ones to get on board with that project, but they assured me, I anticipated 6 weeks to sign the document. They said it might be a little longer. Now we're at 10 months. I've gotten updates from the guy, sent him emails about every 2 weeks. He says we're getting closer, we're getting closer. I had anticipated and hoped that we would have it by the end of this month. All I can say is I think we're close. And I hope we don't finish the project before they get that thing signed and get it to us. And the issue is we can't start claiming reimbursements until we have signed the document. We haven't gotten big bills yet. I still have enough money in the bank to pay the bills we've gotten, but eventually here we're going to get a construction bill, and it's going to be a big one. So
That's why we're not allowing employees to work from home 3 days a week.
right. Yeah, I mean, I'm anticipating, I'm seeing our financing contract going to somebody's house and sitting on their dining room table for a month or two, you know? And I don't know how many people have to review this thing and sign off on it before we get it back, but I know there was a few, yeah, anyway. So, that all being said, we are moving along with the project. When we started the project, we didn't have a lot of historical knowledge. We had no as-built and all that. I'm just going to give you a little history here. And so when we got into it, I was a little nervous. You know, we're always nervous about when you start potholing on a 30-year-old landfill that's got leaks and cracks and a lot of problems on it. You don't know what you're going to find. I've heard a lot of horror stories about what's in there. First thing they did the first day we got out there, when they potholed it, we discovered there was 2 feet below the surface, there was a 3-foot layer of essentially charcoal that had come from the cogen plant. We were surprised because 6 years ago, when we were having the leakage problem out there on the surface, they potholed a lot of areas and they did a lot of work and a lot of investigations on the cracking, and never once did they get into that ash layer or charcoal layer. So the state board had told me if we have problems, alert them sooner than later, because they want to know what's going on, if we're going to be making changes, if they're going to impact anything associated with the engineering on that site. You know, they need to be involved in the decision. So I immediately called the guy up and said, look, we've hit this ash layer with no prior knowledge. We've hit this ash layer, and, you know, we need to determine what we're going to do. We fortunately have a guy who's our CQA inspector out there and on the site who's got about 50 years worth of work knowledge on this. And I immediately called Kurt, our former landfill engineer, who had probably 35 years on our site as well, and 50 years in the industry, and said, help. And we have our engineer who designed the cap replacement. And between the 3 of us, we spent about 3 hours on the phone talking dirt in a Zoom meeting. And we came up with a plan. The water board guys came out. Initially, they said, well, that's class 3 hazardous waste. You may have to remove it. Kurt had dug up some information that he had from his years working here. We had the old CQA report that was signed off on the last time that, when it was originally capped from 35 years ago. And the board apparently approved that ash layer below the surface. So we knew that going into the discussion with the board people, with the water board enforcement group when they showed up. We presented a plan to them that we would leave the ash layer intact, 2 feet below the surface, and that we would use it as our foundation layer now. And they they, after about a minute's discussion, concluded that we were correct and the board had already approved it, the water board had already approved it for the previous project that we did when we originally capped the site. So they allowed us to move forward that way. Now, what that did was, originally, the design called for removing 4 feet of surface off the top of the unit itself. The ash layer was 2 feet down, so the new plan is to remove 2 feet of surface layer and put back 2.5 feet. Originally, it was going to be remove 4 feet and put back 4.5 feet. So on the fly, what we did was we convinced them to reduce our dirt movement by about 50%. Which should save us a significant amount of money on the project. The contractor wasn't very happy about that, but the board has agreed to it. That's how we're moving forward. In fact, we're moving forward so quickly that they've almost got half the project done, the unit, and we anticipate that we may get out of there sometime in September instead of the end of October.
Do we have an amended contract with new rates?
We have not done that yet. The contractor is working on that because obviously he's got overhead built into his quantities and all that. So we've asked them to come back and give us an estimate, and then we're going to negotiate something with them.
You're going to get that back to us because he's 50% done.
Right. Yeah, we didn't anticipate that we'd be moving quite this fast. This is literally all happened in the last 2 weeks. So we are working on that. And the dual extraction wells, I initially did not, they are not included as part of the construction project because we have a company, SCS, that does our monitoring out there, and it handles everything associated with the gas and leachate system as it is. And even though we're replacing the lines for the leachate system, they monitor and handle all the gas-related stuff. And the wells have been on that site for 25 years now, I think. Around 2000 they put those wells in. And pretty much everything associated with the wells themselves is falling apart, and we're piecemealing, putting it back together piece by piece on the fly as they break down, which is a weekly thing. So I had anticipated actually going in and replacing all the hardware on the wells, not as part of this project, but as part of the as part of the cost associated with the financing overall.
You might be better off doing that because if it's breaking here, there, that gets real pricey. One question I did have, I was looking at their that SCS's quote there, and for 2-man crew, they're wanting $2,960. That's probably, I imagine, was a support truck too. But it seemed maybe a little high, Jeff. Maybe.
It's standard in the industry. It's a specialized thing. I mean, we can go out and get, if you would like, I can go out and get different quotes on this. They understand our system. They know everything that's going on the site. I wouldn't recommend going with someone else, but if the board would like to do that,
That's not what I'm asking for. Maybe talk to them, see if they can do a little better on their rate.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of their standard rate sheet. They give us that when we renew their contract every year. So it's in line with the rate sheets that we've approved already for their work that they do for us already. It is expensive to get a 2-man crew out there. Every time the lines plug up, I get a 2-man crew, I get a water truck, I get somebody else out there. It's $5,000 every time the lines plug up out there. It's just expensive work.
In bold, it says there are additional OVT. I assume that's overtime, correct? Additional OVT will be billed.
Yeah, that's overtime.
Don't you usually have like, if the price is going to change, don't you usually have those changes come back to the board?
Something like that. I wouldn't think so.
Well,
I don't anticipate there would be any overtime work on this.
but you're almost talking about like a change order if it's going to occur.
Right. If there was a change order, I presume that if it fell under the amount authorized by the GSA director, that it would come back to the board. I brought this to the board because it exceeds John's ability to approve it on the, so.
So Jeff, this $111,100, this is for fixing this ash?
That's parts of material just for the new wells, all the stuff associated. There's 11 wells on.
So do we have an idea what the fixing the ash, removing that, I guess, and?
The ash layer thing is just some background information I gave you that we anticipate on saving a lot of money on that part of the project, which was unanticipated. Ultimately, I don't see, I estimate probably that we will come in somewhere around the $4 million mark instead of $4.5 million, which has been authorized for financing on the project as a whole.
Because of this ash layer?
No, yeah, because the ash layer happened to be there, and because we turned it around from a negative to a positive, and we're able to move only half the dirt we're
Is it throughout the whole site, or is it just
pretty much,
localized?
yeah, it pretty much is about 80 to 85% of the coverage has the ash layer in it. It's only on the top, it's not on the sides, but they have to match the dirt that's put on to the whole site. So they can't take 4 feet off the sides and then put 4.5 feet back on, because it doesn't work that way. So it's going to reduce the amount we're using we're moving.
When they took their core samples, where'd they drill on the 15% that didn't have the ash in it then?
Oddly enough, a lot of those cracks were in the area where the one pit that these guys did when they were potholing didn't show any ash. But when they potholed, they did a representative sample of the entire site, and I think 5 of the 7 holes had this ash layer in it. And it wasn't like this, it was 3 feet of it. So it could have been. We discovered that on the south side, most of this was supposed to have about a 4-foot cap on it. When we had the water get in there before and it was coming out the sides, we had to put the sumps in. Turns out on that side of the landfill, there was only about 1.5 foot of cover, not 4 feet, like they were supposed to have. We're not sure why, but we don't have any as-built or anything like that. So, I mean, we're just kind of finding out on the fly what's going on out there.
Just seems funny they didn't pick up the ash when they did the core sampling, because that led to about a $2 million error in the the price of the project.
No, that was not. The core sampling was done when we had the cracks, and that was about 6 years ago. When the water board issued a notice of violation and they had to go out there and figure out what was causing all the cracks and all that. That was when they sampled for that.
They didn't do any core sampling on when they estimated the cost of this project?
No, because we anticipated that there was, it's clear that when they do, and even in the CQA report, that they put down 2 feet of foundation, a foot of clay, and at that point, the requirements called for 1.5 feet of vegetative layer. So we anticipate if they'd done a CQA document and they'd done the project right last time, that there was 3.5 feet of material on top above the garbage. So they don't go in and test all that prior to, we just presume we have documents that say that that's what's down there. We have to anticipate that that's what we got. It's pretty well managed by the water board. They re-engineered our project for us on the front end of this one as well.
Yeah, I just assumed, I've learned working with my wife not to assume, so.
No Zoomers, looks like.
Well, doesn't that kind of leave us in flux? They got half the project done, but we don't have the revised contract yet. I don't want to get in an argument at this thing if they complete the project and we still don't have a revised contract.
I think I'm not concerned with that. I think we can proceed safely.
Well, it is like a time and materials thing, so whatever they move is what they get paid for technically. It's in their interest to get something to us to try and negotiate to get more money, but whatever they move is what they get paid for. So we have a contract, and in the contract there, it spells out all the different components of it. The biggest one is moving that dirt.
Yeah, I could see where they may complain about the mobilization if if you're not moving quite as much dirt as they originally.
That's what they brought up. They said, look, our estimates on the dirt removal was we're gonna have four of these 657s out there and the compactors and all that stuff. And we've got that built into moving 1 million yards of dirt, and now we're only gonna move 500,000. So obviously, our overhead is built in at a lower rate per yard of dirt. So, I mean, that's just what he brought up to me initially. We kind of have the same thing going on in the leachate pond, where we anticipated there would be 1 million gallons of leachate left in there. And by the time the Sac Sewer, formerly Regional Sand, got the permit to the guy about 2 weeks ago, 40% of the water had evaporated off in the past month. So he had significantly less water to move, and he kind of had that built in. He had to guesstimate that there was so much sludge in the bottom and so much water in the pond, and he gave us a price per. And when they first came, and I told them there was only about 700,000 gallons left, because I was getting it hauled at 9 cents, and I'm paying 53 cents now during the project. So I told my guy to just keep hauling because it was cheaper for the county in the long run. And it was in my budget, in that project fund budget to do that. So we were down to about 700,000 gallons as it was, which was less than they anticipated. But as it's going now, it looks like they've got the guys, the water's removed. They've got the guys literally sweeping out the leachate, and we anticipate that will be completed by tomorrow. So he's going, instead of taking 2 months to do that project, he's literally doing it in 3 weeks. The estimator came back to me and said that, they had estimated their project and their cost based on 1 million gallons as well. He didn't know if the owner of the company would be willing to sign the contract at this point. Well, the guy signed the contract. I talked to him about it. He never mentioned anything about increasing the price per unit. He's just doing the project. I think he's doing it as a smaller project in between other things now, and we're going to get a much better deal on that as well. We're probably going to save $200,000 or $300,000 on that as well.
On the work on the cap, do we have an inspector or anybody out there? I mean, you said on the last one we were short on the amount of cap material that was supposed to be on there.
We've got a guy who's got 50 years in the industry. He's the best geotech probably in the state right now, managing this project for us. He's sleeping at Lake Amador 5 days a week and going home on the weekends, and he's there every day.
Okay.
I think this is a great price on the wells. I mean, I expected it to come in more than that, so.
Well, we kind of have a change order. We're going to have to lift the wells up about those sumps, the additional sumps we had to put in when the leachate came shooting out the sides. The corrugated HDPE corrugated pipes that are in there are only sticking up about 2 feet above the ground. So when we put the new cap on that's up to size on that, up to specs on that side, it's going to be close to that. So we're going to have to put a couple of couplings on and raise those, put a couple of extensions about 2 feet on top of those. So there's that work that I want them to do. And the wells are going to have to be raised about 6 inches or a foot as well. Again, it's going to be cut them, put a coupling on, and then add a little extension. I don't anticipate that's going to cost much, but I would much rather have these guys do that than the contractors do that, because these guys know what they're doing, and the contractors just sort of, while they have the capacity to do it, SCS does a much better job than they do.
Let's make sure you have a good record with all the as-belts so that the next waste management director doesn't have to walk in the dark.
Actually, they have a survey crew out there, so F3 surveying, that are out there like on a daily basis, flying that thing with drones. They got GPS, everything's done by satellite now. All the machines are run by GPS and satellite. So they're not out there piecemealing anything. They're hitting their grades, they're hitting their compaction. Everything is going like clockwork right now. And Ford Construction is really doing a great job on this. I mean, these guys really know what they're doing when it comes to moving dirt. So well, I've got nothing but good things to say about them. Bunch of young kids out there in their 30s and hard workers, and they're getting it done. So
That's what you want.
yep.
Well, looking for action from the board.
I'd approve the staff's recommendations on the scope of work and the budget, the authorization to GSA to prepare a requisition for parts and labor, and authorize staff to apply for reimbursement from SRF contract funding.
Second.
A motion by Forster and a second by Axe. Roll call.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Chairman Oneto,
Aye.
Supervisor Forster,
Aye.
Supervisor Axe.
Aye.
Carries unanimous. Moving down is item 7E, discussion of possible action relative to the approval of chairman's signature on a letter.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Pardon?
we have a public hearing.
Or past 10:30, okay. Thank you.
Take like a quick 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll take a little, we'll come back quarter till. So we'll take a quick break. Then realize it's 10:30, thank you. Call this meeting back to order. This time we're going to our public hearing scheduled for 10:30. It's item 8A, consideration of Planning Commission's recommendation to approve a proposed zoning ordinance which would add farm breweries as an allowed use in the Ag Exclusive Agricultural Williamson Act zoning district, establishing minimum planning densities for brewery-related crops, and establish regulations for farm brewery ancillary uses that are consistent with the ancillary uses allowed for wineries. Mr. Beatty.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Chuck Beatty with the Planning Department. At your earlier meeting in July, you approved a series of amendments to the zoning ordinance related to the county's winery ordinances, and each one of those was tailored to specifically to the 3 different ag zones in the county. This amendment kind of follows on the heels of that, but it would only apply to the Williamson Act zoning district, so only properties that are currently in or future enrollments into the Williamson Act would be eligible for this amendment. But it establishes a definition for farm breweries, which would be breweries that produce less than 5,000 barrels of beer per year, have on site at least 3 acres of hops or other ag products that are needed for beverage production, and then would allow them to have the same tasting room and event capacities that wineries have, as you adopted those ordinances earlier this month. The amendment was originally reviewed by the Ag Advisory Committee actually about 4 years ago. They recommended that the board make changes to allow breweries to have those same rights as wineries have for tasting rooms. We've always thought that the production and the sale of beer was permitted as an ag activity. The tasting rooms and the by right uses with the events was a little different. Your Land Use Committee, Supervisors Axe and Forrester, took that up and reviewed that and crafted the language for the ordinance amendment, and that was reviewed by the Planning Commission earlier this month, and they recommended approval of the ordinance as well. Be happy to answer any questions.
Now, under the wine ordinance, you had some specific roads in there. So how is this going to, by right, have effect on this type of a situation?
So properties that are currently in the Williamson Act now, or were in when that ordinance was adopted, those road criterias don't apply to them because that by right use was already established. And so contractually, you continue to honor that. Future enrollments have to abide by those road restrictions.
You know, a lot of this, we asked Will Pritchard from Amador Brewing to come into one of our meetings, and if you read through the minutes, he gave us some really good advice. That's why we went up to the 5,000, and it's, you got to remember this barrel of beer, which is like a keg. It's like, what, 1.5 times that?
Well, it's about twice the size of a large keg, so it's about 31 gallons.
Yeah, and he said he's doing, what, about 1,700 barrels a year so
1,700.
far?
And we asked him how much, well, he said, I think Sierra Nevada does what, like 1 million? That's pretty amazing.
I think he said anything under 10,000 barrels a year is considered a small operation.
So we decided to give him a little more room, going to 5. I think the original people requesting this said they're only looking at operating small, probably around that 1,700. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, 5,000 will give them plenty of margin.
No, what's in there seems reasonable.
Water consumption obviously was was an issue. But if you mathematically, if you're using 3 gallons to 1 in your production to make beer, and you've got a 5,000 barrel limit, the actual water you use to irrigate the 3 acres of crops is far greater than the processing of the beer. It's like 2%
that's a lot more
of the total water use. Yes.
Okay. But the kind of hops you can grow here are much different than, let's say, up the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I don't really have any questions. It looks like it's pretty straightforward to me. Rest of the board? You know, at this time, we'd open up the public hearing. Doesn't look like we had any Zoomers. So any members of the public like to comment on this issue?
Good morning, Supervisors. Craig
Morning.
Rocco, Federal Conservancy. Just a brief remark on this. My organization's concern when initially proposed was that this type of proposal might open the door too widely to allow for event centers in our rural areas. I think as written, it's narrowly tailored. It ties the tasting room and events to ag production and the requirement of at least a minimum of 3 acres of hops or other types of productions. So we don't, and limiting it to the ag exclusive zone, Williamson Act contracts, also addresses our concerns as far as not opening the door too broadly for rural events that might detract from the overall rural lifestyle. So that's all we had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No Zoomers, Jennifer?
Not at this time, no.
Any other members of public?
Hey, Chuck, where in the draft does it refer to the road criteria? Is it on the, how did you tailor or slip that?
This ordinance it's exactly the same as the one for the wineries with the exception that we added the definition for farm brewery and then inserted farm breweries everywhere that we mentioned wineries. The restrictions on the road limitations are on it looks like 97. 96 talks about those places that are currently enrolled, and then 97 talks about future enrollments, which have to meet the preferred road requirements.
The preferred roads, yeah.
Those being state routes, Latrobe Road, Lower Ridge, Shenandoah,
Where is that on
Steiner.
97? It's under,
Subsection I, at the bottom.
oh, okay.
Or one.
All right, I see it now. Okay, great.
You know, if it's in the Williamson Act, it doesn't have, they're not limited by the preferred roads, correct?
If they're currently enrolled, correct.
Yeah, okay.
And the one person that I think is interested in this and sent a letter this morning, Vicini, was already a Williamson, in
Yeah.
Williamson Act, so.
Move to
This
close
time we'll-
public hearing.
Yep.
Second.
I'll look to close the public hearing. A motion by Forrester, second by Axe. Roll call.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew?
Aye.
Chairman Oneto?
Aye.
Supervisor Forster?
Aye.
Supervisor Axe?
Aye.
Carries unanimous. Now, looking for a motion as far as all the amendments to the zoning
Move to
zoning ordinance.
approve the proposed amendments and include the findings in the staff report.
Second.
A motion by Forrester, second by Axe. All in favor?
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew?
Aye.
Chairman Oneto?
Aye.
Supervisor Forster?
Aye.
Supervisor Axe?
Aye.
Carries unanimous. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Oh, and moving back up to item 7E. This is discussion of possible action relative to approval of chairman's signature in a letter of opposition regarding the significant rate increases for residents on North Shore Comanche Mobile Home Park.
I asked this to be put on after getting a request from the Comanche Regional Park Advisory Board, but I think we have some gentlemen here that can speak to it better than I can. East Bay Mud's not against trying to hammer the residents of the North Shore with a rate increase anytime they can. They've tried it once before, and we were able to stop that. That was probably about 15 years ago, correct? And they're trying it again. You know, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. Before, they at least sent somebody up to a public meeting that was held. I remember because it was held during the Amador County Fair, and I had to come down and attend it and speak at it, so I just.
Yeah, 12.5% is a lot in a year.
It's a lot, especially for a retired community.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Butch Carter. I'm the designated representative of the Homeowners Association representing the people at the Lake Comanche Mobile Home Park. I'm here with Rick Delaney, who's also a resident and a member of the CPARB, the advisory board for the park, joined by co-chair Tony Irons and Representative Mike Wallace. We're all residents of the park, all retired, all on fixed incomes, and we're probably at the upper level of the fixed incomes with a majority of the senior residents there are on fixed incomes. Quick history lesson on this. Last October, we were notified of a 12.5% rent increase. We immediately caught a barrel of hell, if you will, from all the residents saying what's going on. Nobody was really aware of the HUD FMR process that was put in place in 2010. Over the past 5 years, the average rent increase was 3.8%. They notified us of the 12.5%. In fact, they had to delay the rent increase to February because of the 90-day notice requirement. We immediately met with the concessionaire and the East Bay Mud representatives at the watershed meeting where they had the park advisory board meetings. We met with them in December. First of all, they asked what we could do to rescind it and adjust or amend the existing agreement to have a 2% min, 5% cap. We were told at that time that the only way that could be done would be by the East Bay Mud Board. The advisory committee at that time strongly recommended the East Bay Mud to take into consideration the amendment that we proposed. We attended 3 different meetings over at the East Bay Mud in Oakland. The first one, we weren't on the agenda, so all we could do is give a public, on the non-agenda item, just meet public.
You know, one question, not to interrupt, Mr. Carpenter, but I'd be curious to know, did East Bay Mud raise their water rates by 12.5%?
I couldn't be honest. We were told we weren't customers of PG.
I mean, it'd be interesting to know, if they're to hit you at 12.5%, that means their water rate should go up 12.5%.
I understand, and I concur. We don't know what they've done. They told us we weren't customers of East Bay Mud. And I said, well, I believe if I contribute to your coffers, that makes me a customer. But anyway, that was a different conversation over there with them. They were told, nope, this has to go in front of the finance committee. We had another board meeting at the watershed, and the advisory board, again, strongly recommended to the East Bay Mud to take this into consideration. Another trip to Oakland, staff recommended no change to the existing policy. We went through the process, did some research, found out that I asked at that meeting what the appeal process was. They were told there was none. So we said, really? So then we did some research, find out that there is a appeal process through the advisory board that is put together by the 3 counties, and which brings us here today in front of you guys, ladies, to say, what can we do to help in this process? And what we're told is it takes 2 of the 3 counties to say what you guys have done isn't right, and we want you guys to recommend this proposal that we've made. As you can imagine, that 12.5% increase was significant to a lot of us over there. My Social Security went up 3% to the tune of $77. My rent went up $70. So that it was eaten up pretty quick with that 12.5% rate increase. If they froze it for the next 2 years with a 0 increase, we'd still average more than the 5-year average that they have in the past. So we're available to answer any questions or opportunities that we may have to in trying to get some help with this thing.
What services do they provide to you guys?
Water, let's see, the part of this thing is this HUD formula that they came up with is for 2-bedroom homes being rented in between Amador, the average rent increase in Amador and Calaveras County, or 2-bedroom homes. So the landlord uses this formula on how he raises his rent. We're not renting homes. We all own our own units. We're renting the land.
Right.
70 feet by 80 feet. And so that's, but they provide water and garbage service. They provide and the sewage is part of that deal. The concessionaire, they collected 13, well, they'll be just shy of 1.4 million this year of just rent from the residents. That's not talking about the fishermen and the campers and stuff coming in for that. 1.4 million is their tab that they're on. They made 1.3 last year, 12.5%, takes them just shy of 1.4, or right at 1.4. 28% goes to East Bay Mud. 20% for their infrastructure costs, picnic tables, camp, whatever.
Right.
Nothing really earmarked potentially for the residents. We're having that conversation as we go now. We want to be part of that conversation. But 28% of it is what East Bay Mud charges a concessionaire to be the concessionaire. 20% of that, 20% more goes to infrastructure, supposed to be earmarked. I was using a different term, but earmarked for the facility. And so that's where that money goes to. I mean, they're better than $250,000. That's just off the backs of the renters. Better than $250,000 off the backs of the renters for that. We don't have a problem with somebody making money, 2 and 5. I can budget. If I know my worst case scenario is going to be a 5% rent increase, I can budget for that. Getting popped with a 12.5 and not really having any idea what could be coming next is trying to get assist us and make, our daily lives and what we do and how we spend our money and, going forward. So we don't know where this thing ends up. East Bay Mud, we said, why not? And they said, well, because we said so. Well, last time I paid attention because somebody said so, I had to move out of his house. So that's, why I'm here. Asking for any type of opportunity. Don't know what else we can do.
Last time they tried this, they actually were trying to get rid of the mobile home park.
That's accurate.
So that was pretty incredible that they were just trying to kick everybody out of the park.
It was in the 80s, right?
Well, and
no.
the mobile home park management agreement that's in place for East Bay Mud now says they will continue to keep the mobile home park as long as they're making money.
Yeah.
So there's a whole nother threat
It wasn't in the 80s because I was already elected at that point, so it was after 2000.
Yeah, it was between 2000 and 2000. Yeah, when they first went, that's when they loaded up a busload of the residents and took them over there. And you're right, Mr. Forster.
Now, the current JPA that we're using now is from 1986, so.
But they do not, East Bay Mud is not a proponent of having the mobile home park there.
Right. Which doesn't help our cause.
Yeah, and they hold that Kumbaya barbecue every year, and they want you to pay for it right now, 12.5%.
Yep. So we don't have a problem with them. Something, make sure the concessionaire has what he needs. East Bay Mud gets whatever they need to, satisfy their 28%. But 12.5 is a hard hit.
Yeah.
All at once.
So just to be clear for the board, is what we're asking for today is just for a letter of recommendation to further our appeal to East Bay Mud. We've sent, the chairman of the Comanche Regional Parks Board sent an appeal, excuse me, to East Bay Mud. That appeal was denied. The next step in the appeal process is to get a majority of the county's Board of Supervisors to appeal that. And so that's what we're asking for now, is for your support on furthering the appeal up the.
What do you think's going to come of that? They'll give us the same answer?
All I can say is no.
Yeah.
One thing I was looking at too, it looks like East Bay Mud is raising their rates 8.5% this year and 8.5% next year as far as on their other customers.
Their water? Mm-hmm. I was going to take it a step further and ask them why we didn't have a ward over here, because they have six or seven wards in that East Bay Mud Commission. And I was getting ready to ask about, well, why don't we have anything over here? Because they run everything from Part E south, right? Or all the way to the bay. It's all part of their turf. and we don't have a representative on their E-board representing, another ward over here in the valley or the foothills.
They're not going to want to do that.
And they don't need
I'm
another,
not saying they shouldn't, but they're not going to do that.
so. But we're looking for suggestions, advice, and assistance.
I'll volunteer to write the letter.
Do you want to maybe put in there and request that they maybe raise their rates the same? You're looking for 2 to 5%, but
Back in when this thing was designed in 2009 or 10, when they had this, they had 4 different processes or possible ideas on how to control the rent. One was the CPI, one was Social Security, and the other one was this HUD FMR. They tied it into Social Security. That tickled me, because that way, I'd know what it was, as an example. If it was CPI, you know how that went crazy over the past few years, depending on what was going on in the real world. But that tells me there's room for an adjustment or an amendment based on them having the ideas back then that, 3 or 4 different avenues to take. So that's why we came up with the 2 and 5.
They said, Mr. Chan said that the HUD FMR doesn't apply here. Is that what he said in his letter?
It does apply there, because that's what we're based on.
What he said, though, is that, I think he said it doesn't apply here.
I don't have a copy of that.
I've got it right here. I don't see where it mentions the HUD.
I thought I had read that someplace.
I don't see that.
Monthly space rent adjusted annually based on the average change in the housing and urban development HUD fair market rents for Amador and Calaveras counties.
One of the issues that the East Bay Mud staff brought up was, one of the reasons why they could not adopt a cap was, they said it would not, it would be a subsidizing the rent, and that would be against the Prop 218 or,
Which made absolutely no sense to us.
on public use monies. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know how that applies, but,
Yeah, Richard said he's willing to write a letter, and I think the board would be okay with that. Would you be interested maybe if we were lobbying for 8.5% increase as they did their water customers and your other utility customers? I mean, it'd give you something to kind of work off of.
as a max or as a every year, 8.5?
Well, I wouldn't think every year, but I
Yes.
mean, that could be, that might be a problem.
Are you pretty sure about that rate increase for East Bay customers this year?
Yeah. You maybe don't want to go there.
Yeah, I think-
'Cause they're
I think
doing
it's
it
too
over
late.
2 years.
I think it's too late for them to rescind any kind of increase for this year.
Yeah, anything we're going is gonna be on top of 12 and a half. So
Yeah.
if it's only 2% next year,
October, the FMR comes out, and that's when we'll get the notice of the next increase. So when that comes out, we'll know what it's supposed to be, but until then, we don't know. I mean, it could be 2%.
could be 0.
We don't know.
Well, they couldn't drive the mobile home park residents out before. Maybe this is their new tactic.
Exactly.
It's a serious impact, that's for darn sure.
Do
Oh,
we
yeah.
have any idea what their costs are to serve, your community, the water?
We're in the process of
Sewer and
asking
garbage.
for that information.
Are we allowed to get that from them?
I don't know if it's part of the
Public record?
Public Request for Information Act, but we're trying to find out because they're pulling out this kind of money out of us. We want to have an impact on how it's budgeted.
Well,
right?
it would be nice to see what their costs are, how much they're marking things up, and,
Well, and they're
based
under,
on your premium, or,
they're
your
in process right now on capital improvement projections that supposedly we're gonna have to pay for a percentage of, and they have a value engineering study going on right now that mandates them to study or come up with how much the park is based on, compared to the campgrounds and so forth, because they're using their services too, so.
Where did they purify the water?
They have a treatment plant right
We have a
there.
treatment plant on, at the.
They do?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, this is not only specifically for North Shore, it's for both North Shore and South Shore Comanche parks.
Are the
Do
South
they-
Shore opposing it also?
Yes.
They have a wastewater plant there too?
Yes, both South Shore and North Shore have wastewater plants,
I see. Okay.
which
Aware of that.
supposedly need work. But, you know,
Supposedly what?
need work,
Oh, okay.
repair,
They all do.
right?
Well, but we're also sharing it with every campers and fishermen that they sell out every weekend. And
Yeah,
you
they're-
know, each year, they talk about the fees they're going to charge some of the families and non-residents to come in, and, you know, they go through that process of negotiations. And we don't get that opportunity to negotiate it. We're told what it's going to be.
Well, how about, Chairman Oneto, if you let me write the letter
I'm fine with
in recognition of what you said and try to find a sweet spot in there and then have you approve it for signature?
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking, the rates are looking at 8.5% for 2 years. May not want to go there, but they may hit you with a rate increase next year too, though.
But you're talking rates to their customers in the East Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like Bay Area.
The one thing to remember, though, you know, they can set their rates for their water and sewer, but FMR is HUD FMR is setting the rates for the two-bedroom
And that's,
houses, which they're going by, so.
that's a landlord owns that home that he's renting it out to. So then, if I remember when I was young and had to rent, and the landlord raised my rent, well, now you're gonna fix the garbage disposal and the broken screens. You know, he had to pay for those costs for painting the bathroom or whatever needed to be fixed, right? These guys, all they're doing is providing the land and water, sewage, and garbage. So it's not really a fair, you know, they came up with it at one for a reason, so, but this 12.5 hurt. It hurt.
So did East Bay Mud develop this community?
The history on this thing is interesting. Richard probably knows better than most. When this park was first developed for a recreation, when they put in the mobile home park, it was supposed to just be for RVs and campers and stuff like that. And then it became developed, and they didn't follow their own rules, which is in the documents. So yeah, we just let people move in and they stayed. And then it slowly developed into a 200.
It was supposed to be vacation only.
Yeah.
And back when
became
they
permanent
adopted the
residence.
JPA is when they realized that the current board was not doing a good job running the park. And it almost went under them.
Right. But they became a permanent mobile home park, you know, going forward and developed. And, you know, the one gal at the Oakland East Bay Moore, I guess she came over on a tour with the East Bay Mud guys, you know him, Chuck and Scott. Chuck, I can't even, I've got a blank.
Burton.
Anyhow, came over on a tour and was complimenting them on how, way the park looked and how pretty it was and everything else. I said, time out. That's the residents that do that. East Bay Mud doesn't keep that place looking like it does. It's us residents that make that mobile home park look like it is. We take care of that. So,
Well, okay, you'll write a letter then, Richard, so we probably need a motion to approve.
Yeah, I'd move that the board authorize a letter to be written in opposition to this 12.5% rate increase and then under signature of the chair, approval and the signature of the chair.
Second.
Motion by Forrester, second by Axe. Roll call?
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew?
Aye.
Chairman Oneto?
Aye.
Supervisor Forster?
Aye.
Supervisor Axe?
Aye.
Carries unanimous. Moving down the minutes for
Well,
July.
I appreciate you guys coming.
thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Approval of minutes of July 9th, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Forster, second by Axe. Roll call, Jennifer?
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew?
Aye.
Chairman Oneto?
Aye.
Supervisor Forster?
Aye.
Supervisor Axe?
Aye.
Carries unanimous. With that, I think we are included until future meeting, which is, oh, heck, it's over here,
August 13th.
August 13th at 9 o'clock. Thank you, Supervisor Brown.
You're welcome.